After 65, your bones can become weaker without giving you a single warning. You can walk normally, climb stairs, pick up a bag, live your everyday life. And underneath all of that, your skeleton may be gradually losing some of the density and strength that once protected you. But here's what many people don't realize. Your bones are still living tissue, and the food you eat gives your body some of the raw materials it needs to maintain them. Today, I'm going to show you the foods that can help support stronger bones after 65, and one of them is often overlooked, even though it provides something your bones and muscles desperately need. Welcome to Neural Hours. Here we separate medical myths from scientific evidence so you can make informed decisions about your health. And today we're going inside one of the most important structures in your body, your skeleton. We're going to look at what actually happens to bone as you age, why calcium isn't the whole story, and the foods that can help provide the nutrients your bones need. But we're also going to uncover something important. Because eating one supposedly bone-healthy food won't protect you if the rest of your diet is working against you. And the first food on our list makes that point perfectly. Let's start with something simple. Yogurt. For decades, dairy foods have been associated with bone health. And there's a very good reason. They can provide two things your aging body needs: calcium and protein. Calcium is not just another nutrient floating around your bloodstream. It is a major mineral component of your skeleton. In fact, most of the calcium stored in your body is found in your bones and teeth. Your body cannot manufacture calcium from nothing. You have to obtain it from your diet or, when appropriate, supplements. And when your dietary calcium intake is inadequate, the body can draw calcium from bone stores to help maintain other essential functions. Over time, inadequate calcium intake can contribute to weaker bones and increase osteoporosis risk. For women over 50 and men over 70, the NIH recommends about 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day. But here's the part that makes yogurt particularly interesting. It's not only about calcium. Yogurt can also provide protein. And after 65, that second nutrient becomes increasingly important. Because your bones don't exist separately from your muscles. They're part of one system, and we'll come back to that. But first, there's a food that gives you something yogurt doesn't naturally provide in large amounts. Vitamin D. Think about salmon, sardines, mackerel, trout. These foods are nutritional powerhouses for aging bones because some provide both protein and vitamin D, while certain canned fish with edible bones can also provide substantial calcium. And vitamin D matters because calcium isn't useful simply because you swallowed it. Your body needs vitamin D to help absorb calcium from the intestine. For adults over 70, the NIH recommends 20 micrograms, or 800 IU, of vitamin D per day. But vitamin D deficiency becomes more common with age for several reasons. Older skin is less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. Some older adults spend less time outdoors, and dietary intake may not always provide enough. That's why foods containing vitamin D can become particularly useful. But there's another surprise here. One particular fish can give you calcium and protein at the same time because you eat the tiny bones along with the fish. And that brings us to one of the most underrated foods for older bones. Sardines may not look like the obvious superfood, but nutritionally they're fascinating. When you eat canned sardines with their soft edible bones, you're getting a concentrated source of calcium. You're also getting protein. And depending on the variety, you can get vitamin D and beneficial fatty acids as well. So instead of thinking, what's the one nutrient my bones need? Think, how many bone-supporting nutrients can I get from the same meal? That's a much smarter way to build your diet. And there's another reason this matters after 65. A fracture isn't only a bone problem. If an older adult breaks a hip, for example, the consequences can extend far beyond the skeleton. Mobility can decline. Muscle can be lost. Independence can become harder to maintain. And recovery can become much more difficult. So protecting bone health is also partly about protecting your ability to remain active. And that brings us to a food category that doesn't always get enough attention in conversations about bones: protein-rich foods. Here's something many people misunderstand about aging. They think bone health means calcium, and more calcium. But your skeleton isn't made from calcium alone. Bone contains a protein framework called the organic matrix, onto which minerals are deposited. And protein is also essential for maintaining muscle. That matters because stronger muscles can help support mobility and reduce the consequences of frailty. The International Osteoporosis Foundation identifies calcium, vitamin D, and protein as key nutrients for bone and musculoskeletal health, particularly in older adults. Eggs can be an easy way to add high-quality protein to a meal, but you don't have to eat eggs. Fish, chicken, lean meat, milk, yogurt, tofu, beans, lentils, these can all contribute protein, and this changes how we should think about a bone-healthy meal. Instead of building a plate around one nutrient, build it around a combination: protein, calcium, vitamin D where available, and a variety of plant foods. Which brings us to something surprisingly powerful: the green vegetables on your plate. Kale, collard greens, turnip greens, bok choy, broccoli. These foods can contribute calcium and a variety of other nutrients. But there's an important distinction here. Not every leafy green provides calcium equally well. Some greens contain compounds such as oxalates that can reduce how much calcium your body absorbs. So simply saying, eat spinach for calcium is an oversimplification. Spinach contains calcium, but much of it is poorly absorbed because of its oxalate content. Other greens, such as kale and bok choy, can provide calcium in a more bioavailable form. The lesson isn't that one vegetable is magic. It's that variety matters. And there's another reason fruits and vegetables deserve a place in this story. A bone-healthy diet isn't just about minerals. It's about the overall quality of your diet, which leads to a food that looks nothing like milk or fish but can still fit into a bone-supporting meal. Tofu is one of the most useful plant foods in this conversation, but there's an important detail. Not all tofu contains the same amount of calcium. Calcium-set tofu is made using calcium salts during processing. That means it can provide a meaningful amount of calcium. So, when buying tofu, check the nutrition label rather than assuming every package contains the same amount. Tofu also provides protein, and that combination makes it particularly useful for people who don't consume much dairy. Soy foods can also help diversify your protein sources. And this is becoming increasingly important as people get older. Because one of the biggest nutritional problems after 65 isn't necessarily eating too much. It can be not eating enough nutritious food at all. Appetite can decline, meals can become smaller, cooking can become more difficult, and protein intake can fall. That means a person can unintentionally eat less of almost everything their bones and muscles need. And that brings us to a food that can solve part of that problem in a surprisingly simple way. Milk is almost boring. And that's exactly why people overlook it. But sometimes the most useful foods aren't exotic. They're foods you can actually consume consistently. Milk naturally contains calcium. Many types of milk are also fortified with vitamin D. And fortified plant milks can sometimes provide similar amounts of calcium and vitamin D. But there's one rule: read the label. Not every plant-based milk contains the same nutrients. Some are fortified, some aren't. Some contain significant protein, others contain very little. So don't choose a product simply because the front of the package says healthy. Turn it around. Look at the nutrition facts. That's where you find out what you're actually getting. And this is where our list becomes more interesting, because we haven't talked about one of the easiest foods to add to meals. Something tiny, crunchy, and surprisingly nutrient-dense. Almonds, sesame seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds. These foods can contribute minerals, protein, and healthy fats. Almonds, for example, contain calcium. Seeds can provide magnesium and other minerals involved in normal body function. But don't make the mistake of thinking, more is better. Nuts and seeds are calorie-dense. A small portion can provide a lot of nutrition. The goal isn't to eat enormous quantities. It's to use them strategically. Add some nuts to yogurt. Sprinkle seeds over a meal. Add them to oatmeal. Use them as part of a balanced snack. And suddenly, you're not trying to swallow a calcium supplement. You're building calcium and protein into foods you already enjoy. But now comes a critical question. What happens if you're eating all these foods but still aren't getting enough vitamin D? Because this is where many bone health plans fall apart. The vitamin D problem. You can eat calcium-rich foods every day, but vitamin D still matters. Vitamin D helps your intestine absorb calcium. And when vitamin D levels are too low, bone health can suffer. Very little food naturally contains large amounts of vitamin D. Fatty fish are among the better natural sources, Egg yolks contain some, and fortified foods can make an important contribution. Milk and some cereals are commonly fortified with vitamin D, although the amount varies by product and country. So again, read the label. And if you're concerned about vitamin D deficiency, don't guess. A healthcare professional can determine whether testing or supplementation is appropriate. This matters because supplements aren't automatically harmless simply because a nutrient is essential. Too much of certain nutrients can cause problems. And if you already have osteoporosis, kidney disease, or take medications that affect calcium or vitamin D, your individual needs may be different. So food first, evidence first, and medical guidance when necessary. But we're still missing one major piece, because even the perfect diet cannot fully explain what happens to your bones. There's another ingredient in bone health, and you can't eat it. It's movement. Your skeleton responds to mechanical forces. Walking, climbing stairs, resistance training, weight-bearing exercise. These activities give your bones a reason to maintain their structural strength. And this is why nutrition and exercise belong in the same conversation. Imagine someone eating calcium-rich yogurt, salmon, vegetables, and protein every day, but spending almost the entire day sitting. That's not the same bone health environment as someone eating well, while also regularly challenging their muscles and skeleton. Nutrition provides raw materials. Movement provides signals. And both matter. The International Osteoporosis Foundation recommends a healthy diet with adequate calcium and protein, alongside vitamin D and regular weight-bearing and muscle-strengthening activity. So now let's put the foods together. Imagine you're preparing one ordinary meal. You don't need a complicated osteoporosis diet. You could have a source of protein, a calcium-rich food, vegetables, and, when appropriate, a source of vitamin D. For example, salmon plus leafy greens plus calcium-rich yogurt, or eggs plus calcium-fortified food plus vegetables, or calcium-set tofu plus vegetables plus another protein source, or sardines with edible bones plus vegetables plus a whole food carbohydrate. The point isn't to memorize one perfect meal, it's to recognize the pattern, because healthy bones aren't built by one food. They're supported by a diet that repeatedly supplies the nutrients your body needs. And before we finish, there's one mistake I want you to avoid. Don't turn this video into a shopping list and assume food alone can prevent osteoporosis. Bone loss has many causes: age, hormonal changes, genetics, certain medications, low physical activity, smoking, heavy alcohol consumption, medical conditions, and nutritional deficiencies. And if you've already been diagnosed with osteoporosis, changing your diet should not be treated as a replacement for prescribed treatment. Food can support your health, but it doesn't make medical treatment unnecessary. And there is one final idea I want you to remember. After 65, protecting your bones isn't about finding one miracle food. It's about giving your body the materials and signals it needs day after day. Calcium, vitamin D, protein, nutritious whole foods, and movement. If you want more evidence-based videos explaining what is really happening inside your body as you age, subscribe to Neural Hours. Because healthy aging isn't about trying to become young again. It's about giving your body what it needs to keep functioning well for as long as possible. Your bones are built every day by the choices you repeat.